Hello and welcome to week 3 of Effective Communication Skills for the Workplace. Thank you, Atasha, Lelena, Heather, Brittany, Jillian, Sarah, Lisa, Tashima, Stacy, Tony, Amanda, Megan, Jessica, Patty, Destiny, Nancy, Gladys, Jelena, Cindy, and Mary for your participation and engagement. It's great to have all of you in the class. So we're through the second week, starting on week 3. The discussion last week about cultures of organizations. Thanks especially for all of your examples. I think that that's one of the most helpful things in these discussions that we have is when each of us is able to bring something from our own experience that helps illuminate some of the concepts and ideas that we're learning about. Sarah, I appreciated your example about Yankee Candle. A lot of us are New Englanders, so we know Yankee Candle, and nice to see that story and to hear about that transition from the founder to a larger organization. Heather, Jillian, Megan, and Brittany, that was a great discussion about role and person cultures in a hospital setting and the effects that both of those cultures have, the kind of negative effects that many of you observed as you were patients in hospitals. That was very helpful. Tashima, I really appreciated, especially your example of a task culture, that insight that you had from working with those consultants. Task culture is something that a lot of us, I think, don't see a whole lot of, so that was great. Gladys, putting in the article there, the 7 principles for developing work culture that works, some great stuff there. Anything that includes the Freytag pyramid of storytelling is a good thing. That's a very, very helpful model, and I encourage everybody to take a look at that. Storytelling is a crucial part of helping to shape culture and encourage people in the organizations where we work and serve. So we're into week 3 now. And one other thing that I wanted to mention about week 2, we really didn't get a chance to talk about the leadership TED Talks in our discussion forum. I just want to lift up 3 of the shorter ones. The one by Derek Sivers I found helpful and insightful because it doesn't talk specifically about leaders so much about the person who's first out there with a new idea or a new concept or trying to move an organization in a new direction, but it illustrates the importance of the first follower, that person who follows the leader early on, the first follower, the person who really in some ways makes the leader a leader, because you're not a leader until you have followers. So when a leader gets that first follower, that's really the transition into the role of leader. And I think Sivers has some really helpful things to say, and it's a short and amusing video. Drew Dudley, his everyday leadership. Again, this is a little bit of a different perspective on leadership. It's not so much how to lead a company or a nonprofit, but it's how do we, as leaders in our everyday lives, respond to the people who are right in front of us, who might need help, who might need encouragement, and that's an important way of being a leader too. And lastly, Rosalind Torres has done some excellent research. She spent years and years and years researching what makes great leadership, and a couple of her takeaways I think are very insightful. She talks a lot about how great leaders are people who are willing to take risks. They're people who are preparing for the unknown possibilities in the future, the unknown possibilities of tomorrow, and that they have the resilience to advance those new ideas, to meet those new challenges, even in the face of resistance from the people around them. So you can take a look at those if you haven't already, if those seem interesting to you based on my very brief summaries. So here we are in week 3, and in week 3, we are going to be taking a look at culture of other culture, not in terms of organizational culture, but culture in terms of societal culture. How do we as leaders of organizations, as communicators in organizations, function when we have to deal with people and companies and nonprofits from different societal cultures. And how do we effectively engage with people who have different cultural assumptions, who have different idioms in their language, who speak a different language, who have different gestures, who have a different social hierarchy. So those are kind of some of the things that we're going to be looking at this week, that we'll be talking about things in a discussion forum, how a lot of the really practical things about how we deal with people on an international level. Things as simple as be aware of the time zone, be aware of what time it is when you're engaging with somebody in another country. Be aware of some of the hierarchies that exist in other cultures, some of the ways that one expresses deference and courtesy that might be a little bit different than we do. And of course, always avoid the awkward gestures that may come up. Some of the gestures that we use in our culture that are very, very benign, in other cultures, not so much. And those are the kind of things that you really need to be careful about. And as Smith and Monter say, the thing that we really need to do is ask the locals, ask the people in the area where we're going to be engaging with people in the country, and say, what are some of the things that we need to avoid? To do your research, to look at things, to use Google, to look at things online, but also to have those conversations to see what are the things that we're not even thinking about. What are the things that we don't know that somebody might be able to say, hey, if you're having conversations, if you're engaged in a meeting in our place, here are some things that you need to do, and here are some things that you really need to avoid. So I'm looking forward to our discussion this week. I'm looking forward to the insights in your papers. And if there is any way that I can be helpful to you, please reach out to me. Thanks a lot.